tear gas at protesters. When the army were pulled out, it looked as if the riot police would stand firm. As the protesters gathered again, the authorities blocked the routes with barbed wire. An officer tried to address the crowd, but he was drowned out by the chanting. Suddenly, the police line began to move. They'd received new orders and got into their vehicles, starting to drive away. The crowd took their chance. The last policemen were chased off by protesters, armed only with flowers. There was nothing to stop the rush to the Pearl roundabout, and the crowd began celebrating.
After the massacre that has occurred here, the Pearl roundabout holds a very big symbol to all Bahraini peoples over here. It reminds them, it gives them hope for victory.
The army and police have withdrawn. Thousands of people are back at this roundabout. The government may believe they've made concessions which set the stage for talks, but it's clear many of these people don't want to negotiate.
We reject all negotiations because of the blood, what happened here, scattered everywhere. There are a lot of people dead, and we are asking for moving this country, for this government. They don't love their people. Forever, forever, and forever, we will stay here. We will stay here forever, because it's our country.
The protesters are back at the Pearl, but this country's problems are a long way from being solved. The violence of the last few days has only increased the determination of many here to change this country forever. James Bays, AlJazeera, Bahrain.
Emergency laws in Egypt will be lifted within 6 months, according to a government official quoted by the country's state news agency. Cancellation of the law was one of the protesters' main demands. The Prime Minister also said state pensions will go up by 15% from April. Meanwhile, the military has ordered workers to end their strikes. It says the unrest threatens national security and must stop. Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood has advised military rulers to open a dialogue with workers. 2 Iranian naval ships will sail through the Suez Canal from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean on Monday, according to a Suez Canal official. Egypt said it had received a request for Iranian naval vessels to pass through the canal. Iran said the 2 ships, a frigate and supply ship, plan to cross. Israel has called the move a provocation. After the break, should the Arab world look to Kyrgyzstan? How people's lives have changed there after last year's revolution. And the colour and the spectacle at the opening of the Venice Carnival.
Hello, we've got no less than 3 storms affecting Australasia at the moment. We've got the remnants of Tropical Cyclone Carlos still bringing extremely wet weather across the northern parts of Northern Territory, and that will run its way down towards the northwestern corner of the country. And then we have Tropical Cyclone Diane. It's just offshore, so this should pose no problems as such. And then on the other side of the Coral Sea, very close to Vanuatu, we have what is now known as Tropical Cyclone Atu. Again, that should stay offshore. I don't think we'll see too much wet weather heading towards Vanuatu, but certainly the chance of some very wet weather over the next couple of days as it slides its way further southwards. Coming back into Australia, we've got some heavy rain into the interior. There's our very wet weather which will persist across northwestern parts over the coming days. For the southeast, some rain coming into Sydney, 32 Celsius on Sunday. Bit of a change as that rain nudges its way further northwards. 10-degree drop, so highs of around 22 Celsius as we go into the new working week. For New Zealand over the next couple of days, it's largely fine and dry, but I think for the South Island, some wet and windy weather trying to push its way in. Not too bad, though, for much of the country, and I think Auckland, the North Island, will see some very pleasant weather and a good deal of sunshine. For much of Southeast Asia, it's sunshine and showers with heavy rain for Borneo.
In my classroom, there is no Arabs. It's just me.
They know they have to live here in our country.
country.
A Palestinian student at university in an Israeli settlement must find the uneasy balance between honoring his heritage and securing his future.
You have to remember, here in this place was a country called Palestine.
Mohammed Speed, a witness special at this time on Al Jazeera.
In Libya, Muammar Gaddafi's troops have fired on mourners at a funeral for protesters killed by security forces in Benghazi. Witnesses say dozens of people have been killed, but the demonstrators do appear to be continuing with their protests. There are now reports of protests in the capital, Tripoli. In Yemen, thousands of opposition's protesters have clashed with government supporters in the capital, Sana'a. Riot police opened fire, injuring dozens of people. And Bahrain's government says dialogue has opened between the Crown Prince and the opposition groups demanding reform. Thousands of anti-government protesters streamed back to Pearl roundabout after police and soldiers withdrew. Last April, Kyrgyzstan's opposition rose up, forcing President Kurmanbek Bakiyev to flee, and as uprisings sweep across the Middle East, some lessons perhaps can be learned from Central Asia. As Robin Forestier Walker reports in Bishkek, those wielding the batons can become victims, while others may be disappointed by the change they get.
A critical moment in Bishkek, 7th of April 2010. Opposition supporters unleashed their anger on authority. People's lives were changed in last year's revolution in Kyrgyzstan, and not all of them for the better. Police officer Almazbek Akchikayev lost his legs to a grenade thrown by protesters. He and his family received just $2,000 in compensation.
Policemen were stuck in the middle between the citizens and power, but we were also citizens who serve the people.
Businessman Aliasbek Alimkulov was one of the protest organizers that day. He says former President Bakiyev and his corrupt family stole his money. Crowds had surrounded the White House, the president's palace. Snipers opened fire as protesters, some with weapons, tried to storm the building. Almost 90 people died that day, many of them unarmed, before Bakiyev fled. Aliasbek led the charge.
The first bullet went through my head and lodged in my arm. I felt a burning sensation.
A second bullet passed through his nose and out of the side of his neck. As miraculous as his survival has been Aliasbek's extraordinary change of fortune. He was later appointed youth minister by the new government.
If we hadn't stopped that family, the regime would have become stronger. There'd be no Kyrgyzstan.